At 7:42 a.m., while my coffee was still too hot to drink and the kitchen window was fogged from February frost, my phone vibrated against the laminate countertop. I live alone now. The house sounds different without Eleanor. The refrigerator hum is louder. The ticking clock in the hallway has become a kind of metronome for my mornings. I wake at 6, make oatmeal with a pinch of salt the way she used to, and sit at the small oak table we bought in 1989 from a closing furniture store on Jefferson Avenue. It wobbles slightly on one leg. I never fixed it. Some things you leave imperfect on purpose. The vibration came again. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and reached for the phone. A notification from First National Bank. Transaction alert. $13,600. Heritage Voyages, LLC. Card ending in 1842. Status approved. For a moment, I assumed it was some elaborate mistake. $13,600. Not $136. Not $1,360. The full weight of 4 digits and 2 zeros. My first thought was simple and embarrassingly old-fashioned. That can't be right. I didn't buy anything. I tapped the notification. The banking app opened slowly, as if reluctant to deliver bad news. Blue and white interface. Clean fonts. My checking balance, which had stood at $82,417.23 yesterday evening, now read $68,817.23. The subtraction looked surgical. I set the phone down carefully as though it might explode. Outside, a delivery truck groaned past. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked. The world was continuing, indifferent to my $13,600. I took a sip of coffee. It had cooled enough to drink. Bitter. Strong. Eleanor used to say I brewed it like I was punishing the beans. Her photo sits on the windowsill. Silver frame. Taken in June 2016, 2 months before the pancreatic cancer was diagnosed. She's wearing that pale blue blouse, smiling into the sun, unaware of expiration dates. I looked at her and said aloud, I didn't buy a cruise, Ellie. Because that's what Heritage Voyages sounded like. A cruise line. Something with linen napkins and middle-aged couples pretending they still liked each other. My daughter, Melissa, had access to that card. That sentence didn't land all at once. It unfolded slowly like a stiff joint. In 2018, after Eleanor died, Melissa insisted, Dad, you shouldn't be managing everything alone. What if something happens? Let me be an authorized user. Just in case. Just in case. I remember sitting in the bank office on March 12, 2018. At 10:15 a.m., the loan officer's name was Bradley Kim. He wore a navy tie with tiny sailboats on it. I signed the form authorizing Melissa Grant as an additional cardholder on account ending 1842. It doesn't change ownership, Bradley assured me. You remain primary. I nodded. Of course I remained primary. I was her father. Back at the kitchen table, I opened the transaction details. Merchant. Heritage Voyages, LLC. Description. Mediterranean anniversary package. 2 guests. Date. February 27th, 2026. Amount. $13,600. 2 guests. Anniversary. Melissa's 10th wedding anniversary with Daniel was next month. March 22nd. I stared at the words until they blurred. My oatmeal congealed in the bowl. At 8:03 a.m., I called her. She answered on the 4th ring, slightly breathless. Hi, Dad. I was just getting the kids ready. What's up? Her voice was bright, practiced. Melissa, I said evenly. Did you use my card this morning? A pause. Not long. Just long enough. For what? For $13,600. Another pause. This one longer. In the background, I heard a cabinet door slam and one of the boys shouting about missing sneakers. Oh, that. Yes, I said. That. Dad, is not what you think. I've lived 70 years. When someone says that, it's exactly what you think. It's just the anniversary cruise, she continued quickly. Daniel's parents have done so much for us. They helped with the down payment in 2019, remember? We wanted to do something meaningful. A family gift. A family gift, I repeated. Yes, from all of us. All of us? I asked. Including me? Well, I'm in your family. The air felt thin. You didn't ask. Dad, if I had asked, you would have said no. She wasn't wrong. Because it's my card, I replied. She exhaled sharply, irritation creeping in. It's not like you can't afford it. You have savings. You told me yourself you barely touch your pension. My pension is $3,450 a month after taxes. My Social Security adds another $2,180. I live modestly. The house is paid off. I drive a 2014 Toyota Camry with 92,000 miles on it. I don't vacation. I fix my own leaky faucets. I don't touch it, I said quietly, because I'm 70, Melissa. Dad, please don't make this dramatic. It's a gift. For family. Daniel's dad paid for Jake's orthodontics. That was almost $6,000. So you charged me $13,600 to settle a debt I never agreed to. Silence. Then softer, colder. You always said family helps family. Yes, I did. I looked at Eleanor's photograph again. I did not say, I answered, that family helps themselves to my wallet. She made a small sound, half laugh, half scoff. It's not like we're strangers. You're acting like I stole from you. The word hovered there, between us. Stole. I'm going to look into this, I said. Look into what? The charge. Dad, don't be ridiculous. It's already booked. It's non-refundable. Non-refundable. A curious word when the money wasn't yours to spend. Melissa, I said, and my voice surprised even me with how steady it was. We'll talk later. I ended the call before she could respond. The kitchen felt colder than it had 15 minutes earlier. I carried my bowl to the sink, rinsed it, and set it in the drying rack beside a single plate and one fork. Small household, small messes. I picked up the phone again. My thumb hovered over the transaction. Beneath it in smaller gray letters was an option I had never used in my life. Report a problem. Report fraud. I didn't press it. Not yet. Instead, I opened the last 12 months of statements. There were other charges I had dismissed at the time. $1,240 for Home Essentials Direct. $2,890 for Summit Electronics. $3,300 for Premier Events Catering last July. Each one had been explained, briefly, casually. Dad, I used your card, but I'll transfer it back. Dad, it was easier this way. Dad, don't worry about it. I had not worried. That, I realized, had been my first mistake. At 8:27 a.m., I poured myself a second cup of coffee and sat back down. $13,600. 2 guests. Family gift. Outside, the frost was beginning to melt. Thin rivulets slid down the glass. Inside, something else was thawing too. And it wasn't forgiveness. At 9:10 a.m., I put on my gray wool coat, the one with the missing inside button Eleanor used to nag me about, and drove to the First National branch on Pine Street. I could have handled it through the app. There was a clean blue button waiting for my thumb. Report fraud. But I have always believed in looking people in the eye when something serious happens. Even if the people behind the counter are 27 and call you sir, with professional politeness. The parking lot was half full. A silver Honda with a dented bumper, a white contractor van with ladders strapped to the top, a Tesla that hummed like it disapproved of gasoline. I parked between the van and the Tesla and turned off the engine. For a moment, I just sat there. $13,600. I thought about the numbers the way I used to study electrical diagrams in the power plant, carefully tracing each line. Over the past 2 years, I had dismissed too much. Back in the kitchen, before leaving, I had scrolled through 24 months of statements. I wrote the amounts down on the back of an old utility envelope. July 14th, 2024. Premier Events Catering, $3,300. September 3rd, 2024. Summit Electronics, $2,890. November 22nd, 2024. Home Essentials Direct, $1,240. March 10th, 2025. Lakeside Furniture Company, $4,780. August 2nd, 2025. Skybound Airlines, $5,960 for tickets to Orlando. Each time Melissa said, Dad, I'll send it back next week. Sometimes she transferred a portion. $500 here, $1,000 there. Enough to make it look like an arrangement rather than a habit. When I added it all up, including smaller $300 and $600 charges that felt too petty to argue about, the total came to $64,870. Over 23 months. $64,870. More than I had spent on Eleanor's entire cancer treatment out of pocket after insurance. I stepped out of the Camry and walked inside. The branch smelled like printer toner and lemon disinfectant. A young woman with straight brown hair and a name tag that read Isabella smiled at me. "Good morning, sir. How can we help you today?" I handed her my debit card. "I'd like to speak with someone about disputing a credit card charge." Her smile remained intact, but her eyes sharpened slightly. "Of course. Is it a recent transaction?" "Yes, and several older ones." She led me to a glass-walled office. The banker who joined us introduced himself as Thomas Delgado. 32, maybe 33. Crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled exactly once. "What seems to be the issue, Mr. Grant?" I slid the folded envelope across his desk. "Those charges were made by an authorized user on my account, without my permission." He scanned the list. His eyebrows rose just barely. "That's a substantial amount." "Yes." "Is the authorized user a family member?" "My daughter." There it was again, that small shift in tone when family is involved. Banks are trained to handle strangers. Family makes things messy. Thomas folded his hands. "Mr. Grant, because she is an authorized user. Technically, she had access to the card. However, if transactions were made without your consent, you can still dispute them. Even if she physically had the card, yes. Authorization to hold a card does not equal blanket permission for every purchase. If you did not approve the charge, it can be classified as unauthorized use." Unauthorized use. I like the sound of that better than family misunderstanding. "What happens if I dispute it?" I asked. He turned his monitor slightly so I could see the screen. "We initiate a chargeback investigation. The merchant is notified. Funds are provisionally credited back to your account within 3 to 5 business days. We may require a signed affidavit. In cases involving significant sums," he glanced at the $13,600 figure, "the bank may recommend filing a police report." Police report. I pictured Melissa's face if a uniformed officer ever knocked on her beige suburban door. "This isn't excessive?" I asked. Thomas met my eyes steadily. "Mr. Grant, $13,600 is not minor. And given this pattern," he tapped the envelope, "you're looking at nearly $65,000. That is significant financial exposure." Exposure. For years, I had called a helping. "Will she be notified?" I asked. "Yes. As the authorized user, she'll be informed that the transactions are under dispute." I nodded slowly. My phone buzzed on the desk. "Melissa." I declined the call. "She's already noticed something," I said quietly. Thomas didn't comment. Instead, he rotated the screen back and clicked into the most recent transaction. "Heritage Voyages, LLC. Would you like to proceed with reporting this as fraud?" The word sat there on the screen, clinical and sharp. Fraud. Not generosity. Not misunderstanding. Not family tension. Fraud. I thought about March 12, 2018. Bradley Kim and his sailboat tie. I thought about Eleanor telling me, "Earl, don't confuse love with obligation." I thought about the $5,960 airline charge last August. Disney World for Daniel's parents' 35th anniversary. I had not been invited. At 9:42 a.m., in a glass office smelling faintly of disinfectant, I nodded. "Yes," I said, "I would." Thomas turned the screen toward me. "You'll need to confirm here." There it was again, the blue button. Report fraud. My thumb hovered for half a second. Then I pressed it. The click was silent. No dramatic sound. No thunder. Just a small spinning circle indicating processing. Thomas printed a document and slid it across the desk. "Please sign here, confirming these charges were not authorized by you." I signed my name, Earl Jonathan Grant, carefully, the way I used to sign report logs at the plant. As the printer hummed again, my phone began vibrating continuously on the desk. "Melissa, Daniel, Melissa," again. I let it ring. Thomas looked at me, not unkindly. "These situations are difficult, especially with family." "Yes," I said, "they are. But you're within your rights." Within my rights. For 70 years, I had been a father first and a man second. Provider. Fixer. Buffer against consequences. At 9:58 a.m., I walked out of the bank with a provisional credit receipt in my coat pocket. The February air was sharp, almost cleansing. My phone buzzed once more. This time I answered. "Dad, what did you do?" Melissa's voice was no longer bright. I unlocked the car, opened the door, and said calmly, "I corrected a mistake, and for the first time in 2 years, I did not feel like the mistake was mine." If you believe older voices still matter, support this channel with a like and a subscription. At 10:17 a.m., my phone rang again. Not Melissa this time. Daniel. I watched his name vibrate across the screen while I sat in the Camry with the engine idling. I could have let it go to voicemail. I almost did, but there is something clarifying about hearing the anger directly. I answered. "What did you do, Earl?" he demanded without greeting. "He stopped calling me Dad 5 years ago, around the time his salary surpassed mine. I disputed a charge on my credit card," I replied. "You just froze $13,600, he snapped. "Do you have any idea what that does to a booking like that?" "Yes," I said calmly. "It flags it as unauthorized." A sharp exhale on the other end. The kind people make when they're trying to stay polite in public. "We're at La Meridienne right now," he said in a lowered voice. "With my parents. We were celebrating. Celebrating with my money." "I see," I answered. "They just got a notification that the cruise payment is under investigation." My father is humiliated. Humiliated. The word rolled around in my mind like a marble. "Daniel," I said evenly, "your father will survive." He lowered his voice further, which told me exactly where he was. White tablecloth, linen napkins, 2 closed tables. Probably the same restaurant where I paid for their anniversary dinner last May. $842.17 with tip. "You've made this look like theft," he hissed. "If it wasn't theft," I replied, "it wouldn't look like it." There was silence. Not stunned silence. Calculating silence. "Melissa had authorization," he said carefully. "She's an authorized user. Authorized to hold the card." I corrected. "Not authorized to spend $64,870 over 2 years. He stopped breathing for a second. "Where are you getting that number?" "I can add," I said. The quiet on the line told me he hadn't expected that. They had relied on something simple. My reluctance to total things. "You're exaggerating," he said finally. "I have statements," I answered. "Would you like dates?" A chair scraped loudly near his end of the call. "Dad." Melissa's voice, faint in the background. He must have covered the receiver, because his next words were muffled. I heard the tone, though strained, defensive. When he came back on the line, his voice had shifted. Smoother. Dangerous in a different way. "Earl," he said, "this is family. You don't escalate family matters to banks." "I didn't escalate," I said. I corrected. "You're going to ruin Melissa's credit." "No," I said quietly. "Melissa chose the risk when she charged a cruise to someone else's account." His temper cracked then. "You sit in that house alone with your money and you think that makes you powerful?" There it was. Not concern. Not confusion. Resentment. "I sit in my house," I said, "and pay my own bills." "You never complained before," he shot back. "You were happy to help." Help. I remembered August 2, 2025. For airline tickets to Orlando. $5,960. Melissa had said, "It's easier if I put it on your card, Dad. We'll settle up." They settled $1,000. The rest dissolved into silence. "I was happy to help when I was asked," I said. "I was not happy to be used." The word hung there. Used. I heard a new voice on the line. Deeper. Older. "Is this Earl?" Daniel's father. I hadn't heard that man address me directly in years. "Yes," I replied. "This is Thomas Whitaker. I understand you've caused some confusion regarding our anniversary gift." Caused. "I understand my credit card was used without my consent," I said. He laughed lightly, the kind of laugh that smooths over sharp edges. "Surely this can be resolved privately." "It is being resolved," I answered, "through proper channels." There was a pause. "Are you accusing your daughter of criminal behavior?" he asked. I thought about that carefully. "I am stating a financial fact," I said. "A charge was made without my approval. The bank is reviewing it." The restaurant noise in the background seemed louder now. Cutlery. Low conversations. Someone clearing a throat. "You are embarrassing your family," he said. I felt something inside me finally settle. "For 2 years," I replied, "my family embarrassed me quietly. I simply didn't notice." Silence again. But this one was different. They hadn't expected resistance. Melissa came back on the line, voice shaking, not with guilt, but fury. Dad, how could you do this? Over vacation? It's not over vacation, I said softly. It's over trust. You're blowing this out of proportion. I added up the proportion, I answered. You never needed the money. That was the moment. Not apology, not regret, just that. You never needed the money. I closed my eyes briefly. Eleanor's voice echoed in memory. Don't confuse love with obligation. I needed the respect, I said. There was nothing theatrical in my tone. No shouting, no trembling, just fact. No, I said clearly. Proceed. Melissa's face drained of color. You're choosing money over me, she whispered. I shook my head slowly. I'm choosing accountability. The call ended. The house was very quiet after that. Daniel spoke first. Low, controlled. If this escalates, we will defend ourselves. You should, I said. Melissa's voice trembled, not with remorse, but disbelief. I never thought you'd do this to me. I walked to the window and looked out at the bare February trees. I never thought you'd do this to me either, I said softly. They left without slamming the door. At 4:12 p.m., I sat back in Eleanor's recliner. On the side table lay my will, drafted in 2019. It named Melissa as primary beneficiary. I picked it up. Then I reached for the phone and dialed a different number. Harper and Cole law offices. A receptionist answered. I'd like to schedule an appointment, I said, regarding estate planning. Because family law, I was beginning to understand, works both ways. The consultation at Harper and Cole was scheduled for March 3rd at 11:30 a.m. I arrived 10 minutes early. The office sat on the second floor of a brick building downtown, above a bakery that smelled perpetually of sugar and warm bread. The scent followed me up the stairwell, oddly comforting. Eleanor loved cinnamon rolls. She would have made a comment about the impracticality of locating a law office above Temptation. Margaret Cole was younger than I expected, mid-40s, sharp eyes, efficient posture. She shook my hand firmly and gestured toward a leather chair opposite her desk. What can I help you with, Mr. Grant? Estate planning, I said. Then I paused. And asset protection. Her pen hovered over a legal pad. Is there an immediate concern? Yes. I handed her a folder. Bank statements. The dispute documentation. A summary of the $78,450.36. She read in silence. No raised eyebrows. No gasps. Just professional absorption. Your daughter? She asked. Yes. And the investigation is ongoing? Yes. She nodded once. You're within your rights. Financial exploitation statutes apply regardless of family relationship. Have you considered revising your will? That's why I'm here. My 2019 will left everything. House valued at approximately $610,000. Savings accounts totaling $84,000. Modest investment portfolio of $220,000. To Melissa, after small charitable bequests. I want to amend it, I said, significantly. Margaret folded her hands. Before we proceed, I need to ask directly. Is this decision being made in anger? I considered that carefully. No, I said at last. It's being made in clarity. She held my gaze for a long second, then nodded. What are your intentions? I had thought about this for days. I want to establish a trust, I said. Education-based, distributions only. For my grandsons. Tuition, books, medical expenses. No discretionary access for their parents. And the remainder? I glanced toward the window. Outside, traffic moved steadily, indifferent to legacies. I want 50% to go to the Slidell Technical Scholarship Fund. Eleanor believed in trade education. The other 50%, split between the boys' trust. Margaret's pen moved steadily. And your daughter? She will receive $1. Margaret didn't react outwardly, but she did ask, would you like to include a letter explaining your reasoning? Yes, I said. I would. The police report was filed on March 6th at 9:18 a.m. Officer Ramirez took my statement at my kitchen table. He removed his cap respectfully when he saw Eleanor's photo. You understand, he said gently, that once this process moves forward, it may result in criminal charges. I understand. He documented everything. The totals, the pattern. The recorded calls I had saved after March 1st. Daniel's accusation that I was power-tripping with money. Melissa's statement that I never needed it anyway. By mid-April, the bank concluded its investigation. Of a $78,450.36 disputed, $71,200 was ruled unauthorized and permanently credited back to my account. The remaining amount fell outside time limits or lacked sufficient merchant cooperation. $71,200. Daniel's refinancing application was denied in May due to pending financial investigation. I learned that not from him, but from Melissa's voicemail, left at 10:47 p.m., voice trembling with fury. You've ruined our rates. Do you understand that? Our mortgage payment is going up by $680 a month because of this. I listened to it twice. Then I archived it. In June, the district attorney offered Melissa a deferred prosecution agreement, full repayment plan of the remaining disputed amount, mandatory financial ethics counseling, and probationary oversight. No jail time if she complied. She signed. I was notified by certified mail. The final confrontation happened on July 12th. Melissa asked to meet one last time. We chose a neutral place, a small park near the river where she used to feed ducks as a child. It was 6:30 p.m., still warm, cicadas humming in the trees. She looked thinner. Anger ages people. So does shame. You changed your will, she said, without greeting. Yes. You're cutting me out. I am restructuring. Tears filled her eyes, not theatrical but raw. You're punishing me forever. No, I said quietly. I'm protecting what's left. She stared at the water. I thought you'd always bail us out, she admitted. You always did. That, I said gently, was my mistake. Silence stretched between us. I never thought of it as stealing, she whispered. I know. She looked up at me then, and for the first time in months, I saw something other than entitlement. I'm in counseling, she said. They call it financial boundary collapse. I almost smiled at the term. We confused access with ownership, she continued. Yes, I said. You did. The sun dipped lower. Will you ever forgive me? She asked. I considered that carefully. Forgiveness, I said slowly, is not the same as restoration. She nodded, as if she understood the distinction. We sat on the bench for a while longer without speaking. When we stood to leave, she hesitated. I really did think you didn't need it. I met her eyes. I didn't need the money, I said. I needed to know I wasn't just the account number. She swallowed hard. I walked back to my car alone. In August, the trust documents were finalized. The scholarship fund received its first anonymous pledge, structured in my will. My accounts were secure. Single authorization. No additional users. The house was quiet again, but it felt different now. Not lonely. Clear. On September 1st, at exactly 7:42 a.m., I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee. The same oak table. The same slight wobble. I opened my banking app. Balance. $153,617.23. Stable. Protected. Earned. Eleanor's photo caught the morning light. I press fraud, Ellie, I murmured. And I finally learned the difference between love and liability. Outside, the frost had long since melted. Inside, so I had the illusion. And for the first time in years, my name on that account felt entirely like my own.